this look better or not?
No, it's very distorted. I'm not sure if you can change settings.
I'll try it with different set of headphones. Hopefully there's a different try.
Yeah, I couldn't understand that. So I hope there's something you can try. Good afternoon, Dr. Day. If you'd like to check your audio.
Yes, good afternoon.
Sounds great. Thank you. And Gary, would you like to check your microphone?
Good afternoon.
Loud and clear. Thank you. And Veronica, I see you back on.
Yes. Does this work any better?
Yes. That
Okay.
looks like it fixed it.
I tried a different set of headphones.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're still like a tiny bit fuzzy, but definitely okay hearing you.
Maybe I'll log back in.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a bandwidth issue for you.
Yeah, I'm at work, so we'll see.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, it definitely sounds workable right now. And Michelle, if you'd like to check your microphone, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Dr. Jordan, Medical Examiner's Office. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. The supervisor just told me that the Zoom is not launching on her computer, so I'm going to try to troubleshoot with her.
Okay, I saw her on earlier, but the audio and video weren't connecting.
Yeah.
We're back to her. Okay. Let me know if you need help with that.
Hello, this is Veronica Marcello again. Is this any better?
That was clear. I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Veronica. Good afternoon, Sylvia. If you'd like to check your microphone, please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Very clear, thank you. And Matthew, if you'd like to check your microphone, please go ahead.
Good afternoon.
Sounds good, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Welcome, Supervisor Wasserman.
Good afternoon, everyone. And I just spoke with our chair, Vice President Ellenberg. She's having a little trouble getting on, maybe a couple of minutes late. I did not call her Rook because technically Auto Supervisor Lee is the Rook because he's the youngest. How's everybody doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing all right, thank you. It was a very, very, very busy July and got a lot of things done.
Good.
Hope everybody remained in good health.
Yes, thankfully.
Good.
And Supervisor Wasserman, this is Colin Cooch. I'll be the clerk for you along with Jess today. Thank you.
Wonderful. Colin couldn't ask for any better.
Jeff Rosen, if you'd like to check your microphone.
Is it working?
Yep,
Yes,
sounds
yeah.
great.
I think that's the last you will hear from me during this meeting.
We'll give her a couple of minutes, and if she's not joining us, we'll open up with what we can open up with. And I'll just text her to see how things are looking. What is that from? Grateful Dead? No. Something on the water?
Smoke on the water?
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
Deep Purple.
Deep Purple, that's what I still got my LPs. Absolutely. I'll ask her here.
Looks like she's connecting now.
She's back.
Good
Thank
job.
you all very much for your patience. Zoom was not launching for some reason.
We've all been there.
I know, nothing a reboot can't fix. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the
Recording in progress.
Yep.
August 5th Public Safety and Justice meeting. Let us begin with a roll call, please.
Vice Chairperson Wasserman
Here.
and Chairperson Ellenberg.
I am here.
We have a quorum.
All right, then let us go directly to, did you lose me?
Nope, we got you. Public comment?
Oh, yeah, mine stopped. Okay, well, if you can hear me, I'll keep going. This portion of the meeting is set aside for members of the public who wish to speak on matters not on the agenda today, but within the purview of the Public Safety and Justice Committee. Do we have any speakers today?
We do have a couple of speakers.
Sharon Ellenberg, if it's your intent, your video is off. Which, if it's your intent, that's fine.
It was not my intent. Thank you very much. Looks
No.
like we have 3 speakers, so let's do 3 minutes each, please.
All right. The next speaker is Scott Largent. I'm unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 3 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Scott Largent. I'm on a little field trip today. I'm out at Component out off of First Street out here. Very large encampment out here on Apple's property. I'm sure you guys have been hearing about this a lot in the news. I come out here to kind of check on people and to see what's really happening, what services are really being brought out, and what's going to happen with this place out here. Been able to talk to a lot of people that are escaping domestic violence situations. You know, that's a very hard thing to see and to talk with people and to see, you know, anything from teenagers to children, you know, living in trailers and tents. And yeah, I say this a lot. It's third world country conditions that never exist in Silicon Valley. I'm still shocked that the people in power allow stuff like this to happen. FEMA trailers should have been brought in, dignified washing stations, bathrooms, kind of everything that I would have expected. In third world countries, they have FEMA camps that just blow our, you know, temporary housing out of the water. And this is like in Somalia. So I'm pretty shocked. I don't think anybody's really gotten the memo. When you go out to Spring Street where I stay, that is another area that I am just amazed. I am just amazed. The people that are going to work that are on this call, you must put like blinders on when you drive down the street, or maybe you're getting dropped off, or maybe you're still on Zoom at home and you're really not seeing everything. A woman was going up and down heading for the last 3 days. Yeah, I called plenty of times. A gal probably in her mid-20s, lifting her top up, her JJ's hanging out. I mean, it's just absolutely shocking. The woman's dodging cars. She's almost getting run over. This is a constant thing that I talk about, but that's somebody's daughter that is going through a mental health crisis. She was released from the Santa Clara County Jail 2.5 days ago. She still has her bracelet on. Nobody does anything. Every law enforcement agency drives past that woman. You guys really need to figure out a different approach to this. This should not be one big, massive mop bucket out there. You could vet these people out. You could truly help people. But I'm just worried our leadership is asleep at the helm. And I will continue to advocate for these people out there. And I'm one of them also. I do live out there at Spring Street. And it's the best option for me right now. I'm still able to go to work and see my child. It's just affording a $3,000 rent ticket right now just isn't going to happen. And I just hope you guys please start paying attention. Thank you.
The next speaker is Catherine Hedges. I'm unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 3 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Ellenberg and the council. I want to second everything Scott Largent just said. The conditions in the county are absolutely atrocious. I live downtown and there are people living on the street who need support. There are people in permanent supportive housing who are not getting support. We keep having fires and floods in my building because people are unable to take care of themselves. We put people in housing and we don't give them the support they need to succeed. And then there are all these people aren't in housing, even though the housing is imperfect. And it's just atrocious. This is not how a civilized country treats its people. We need to have a social safety net, not just people, turning their heads aside when they see problems. And so I hope the county can do more to help people and find money. I think it's atrocious. So we have all of these libertarians in the tech companies who figure, they got theirs. Anybody else can just, go get a 6-figure job at one of their companies if they really deserve to succeed. And that's not how life works. Everybody is a human. Everybody deserves support. Nobody deserves to live on the street or be walking around in traffic. Why hasn't the mental health crisis team helped her? I keep hearing so much about it and I keep seeing so many people need help. And then I hear that when you call them, the police show up and terrorize people. This shouldn't be happening. Thank you very much. I yield my time.
The next speaker is Andrew Bigelow. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 3 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Right on. Hey everybody, my name is Andrew, organizer at Silicon Valley Debug. Wanted to kind of tie two topics in at once. So one, I joined the community forum around the building or the construction of the new jail, and just want to echo that I did not hear anybody say or talk about how building a new jail was the answer or what people wanted. In fact, it was it seemed a lot of people were opposed to it, and a lot of people were very hyper aware of the trauma and detriment that incarceration does to not only the folks who experience it, but also their families and surrounding community. I want to, for me, something that's like very related is what's happening in relationship to SB 823 and what's happening with the DJJ being shut down and realignment. I know there's an element of this of trusting the process, and we have to go through this process to create a plan. But DJJ is no longer accepting young people, and there are already young folks who are being adjudicated here in Santa Clara County, and our default is juvenile hall. And I just want to raise that concern to this group, and a lot of folks have compared juvenile hall to an adult male facility. And it is not a long-term facility for young people. And it shouldn't be our bottom, it shouldn't be our base. There should be something else that young people can go to in the meantime until an actual realignment program is figured out and came to. I raise those those issues in the 823 subcommittee, but I'm gonna continue to bring that up wherever I can. I'm not really sure what to do with all 3 minutes. I guess that's it. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sarah Lesser. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 3 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hello, my name's Sarah Lesser, and I am also representing SV Debug and Bend the Arc. And I wanted to just echo Andrew's support of, I would like to use the funds for support for mental health resources for people in the county and not building a new jail. So I just want to reiterate that we really do not need a new jail in Santa Clara County. But instead, I would like to see those funds used to support people's mental health needs and get to the root causes of why people are, getting sent to jail. Because as a mental health practitioner, I see the effects of incarceration on the whole community and on families. I work with young people, a lot of people whose parents have been incarcerated, and I see the negative effects of that on them. And I'd like to see people's mental health issues addressed instead of them being sent to jail, which can often just exacerbate their problems and kind of sends them back to jail more often too. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Vinay Vihar. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 3 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good afternoon. My name is Vinay Vihar. I'm a community organizer with Silicon Valley Debug. I'm also system impacted and directly impacted. I'm here today to speak on item 5 on the agenda. And I'm actually in support of Care First Jail Last Coalition, and I'm speaking on the reports about the 2 successful community engagement sessions. My concern was there's a 120-day community process. The board may want to consider an extension due to the August 2nd health order requiring us to use facial coverings, which may impact the in-person attendance for the future in-person meeting. We would also like to thank Debug. We'll also like to thank Burns Institute for the great Zoom community and the diversity of the system impacted and non-system impacted folks overwhelmingly not wanting a new jail. It was so inspiring to see how many people really didn't want a jail. It was really eye-opening. So I thank you all for having those sessions. It was just so diverse, and it was also educating of other people who knew nothing about what was going on and where the money's going to be allocated, things like that. So thank you for your time. I yield my time.
All right, that concludes our request to speak.
Thank you very much. We'll move to approval of the consent calendar. And Supervisor Wasserman, I would like to add item 8 to consent. This recommendation has the support of Carla Collins, who's the director of the Office of Gender-Based Violence Prevention. This annual report from the Office of Gender-Based Violence Prevention and Division of Equity and Social Justice relates to the Domestic Violence Shelter-Based Programs Special Fund.
Sounds good. Was that a motion to approve 8 and 10 for consent, Madam Chair?
That's in fact exactly what it was. Thank you.
I'm happy to second that motion.
All right, thank you. Before we take a vote, we need to see if there are public comments on the consent calendar as amended.
There are no requests to speak.
All right, then let's have a vote.
Vice Chairperson Wasserman.
Yes.
And Chairperson Ellenberg.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move to item 4, which is to receive verbal reports from departments relating to the Public Safety and Justice Committees with regard to county response to COVID-19.
Thank you,
And Mark.
Supervisor Ellenberg. This is Gary Hersig, Deputy County
Gary.
Executive. Hello. I'll go ahead and kick it off with Judge Zahner, who will give a report on court operations.
Thank you, Gary, and supervisors. Good afternoon. You won't hear much different, I think, than what you heard reported from Judge McGowan at the last meeting, although I can update you on the progress we made in trying criminal jury trials since then. We currently have 385 pending criminal jury trials where the statutory time has not been waived by the defendant. And about 80% of those have passed their initial statutory last day, and we continue because of the overwhelming inventory and the limited ability to try cases to find good cause to extend that statutory last day as we continue to try cases as rapidly as we can. About 70% of those are misdemeanor cases. In June and July, we did hold 14 criminal jury trials, the vast majority of which were felony trials and multiple weeks in length. COVID-related precautions still make it challenging and slower to call in jury panels, to select juries, and to conduct jury trials. And we're moving quicker than we once were, but not as quickly as anyone would like, I think, being constrained by those limitations. For those matters in which time has been waived, the statutory time has been waived, we are sending those, both felonies and misdemeanors, to a trio of retired judges who are participating in a resolution conference program that's been authorized for the use of retired judges by the Chief Justice. And those judges are settling about 50% of the matters sent to them for resolution and helping us cut into that backlog in that manner. Moving on to the civil side, we have about a 20 to 30-day backlog in processing civil e-filing. Even though civil e-filing is ongoing, you still need a physical person sitting at a computer to actually process the filings coming in. And our staffing shortages just give us that regular backlog. We are not backlogged, and we prioritize anything that is an ex parte request, such as a restraining order or other emergency requests, which are promptly processed within 24 hours. Civil jury trials, both jury and non-jury, do continue to go forward, although we only have 4 available civil trial judges. So we aren't trying as many cases with all the similar constraints on the criminal side. We are still getting out jury trials, however. This last piece is not a COVID-related backlog, but I wanted to be sure the committee is aware that we currently have 7 judicial vacancies out of 77 judgeships, and come August 30th, when 2 of our judges are confirmed to the Court of Appeal by nomination of the governor, we will have 9 judicial vacancies out of 77 if we do not receive any further appointments from the governor's office. And both these judicial shortages and the ongoing staffing shortages do impact our ability to address the backlogs. Some final good news, we hope, is that COVID backlog funding was signed into law in the state budget that was just passed. And those monies will be allocated to the courts by the Judicial Council at the end of September at their regular meeting. We don't know at this point how much that will assist us in staffing and addressing our court's backlogs. And that is my summary for August 5.
Thank you so much, Judge Zahner. I don't have any questions. Do you, Supervisor Wasserman?
Yes, I just wanted to say we've got a lot of departments that wish they only had 10% vacancies. So I hope we can all start filling spots throughout the courts and throughout the county as well. That's for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to pivot a little bit and move to the departments overseeing custodial operations, and we'll start with the Sheriff's Department.
Okay, thank you. We have Sergeant Renee Menchaca here to make a report.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good afternoon, Supervisors Ellenberg and Washman. Currently, the Sheriff's Office has 9 COVID-19 positive employees in isolation. We also have 11 COVID-19 positive inmates in our care. As far as vaccine numbers, to date, 70.8% of the Sheriff's Office staff has been reported as vaccinated. 68.1% are fully vaccinated, and 2.59% have received their first dose, have only received their first dose. Specific to the Custody Bureau, 64.2% are fully vaccinated, and 1.4% have only received their first dose. I will add that most of the people that have only received their first dose are pending their second. As far as the certification of vaccination status forms, we've requested an updated list from ESA so that we may provide proper notifications to our staff members. The previous list that was received from ESA that showed that most of the employees that were not in compliance of submitting them were extra help or on leave. We continue to work with TSS to identify staff that are out of compliance. I'm also going to be reporting on our programs and visitation. As far as visitation, Main Jail and Elmwood have reported to return to pre-COVID visitation capacity. Also, in effect is at the Elmwood facility minimum camp, visiting is outside and it's non-contact. As far as programs availability, programs for our inmates are currently implemented within a hybrid system, which consists of in-person and remote learning. We have safely restored in-person programs and in-person program and remote learning. We have a multi-layered risk mitigation strategy that incorporates vaccinations, masks, testing, social distancing, and this is regardless of sites or program. If possible, programs are conducted outside, and if they are indoors, it is with the windows and doors open. Currently, there are 131 classes being offered during the current 12-week cycle, which includes both female and male populations. 63 are in-person learning and 68 are remote learning. Currently, we offer 2 vocational pathways with an additional 2 more starting this month. All in-person instructors and providers are adhering to all custody vaccination protocols and guidelines. A phase-in schedule has been created for chaplaincy services, and that will allow them to resume services and go into the areas needed. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just have one question. Have visits with children resumed, and/or have any of the parenting classes resumed? And if kids are present, are those visits permitting contact?
Yes, we can have Captain Sepulveda or Captain Duran comment on that, who are here.
Great.
Can I comment on the parenting class?
And he's looking it up now.
Sorry.
We can get back to you if he doesn't have it here. We didn't anticipate that question, so I apologize. And Assistant Sheriff Davis is off currently. So if, Captain, do you think you can get it in a second?
I'm hoping.
Well, as far as visits, we're not doing contact visits, is that correct? And so the regular window visits, certainly kids would be allowed there too. Is that a fair assessment? Yes. Yeah, so visiting will continue. He's looking up parenting classes.
So,
right, and go ahead.
So we currently are offering first 5 for both the female and male populations. We're offering Families Coming Together is currently out for bid. So that's a brand new program that will offer visitations and parenting classes.
And the first 5 program, I know they run a number. Is that the triple P? Or is it a?
I don't have that information right.
Okay. So what probably clear. What I'm just most interested in is knowing if parents have opportunities to engage with their kids and if when they are in the programs, if not just in the regular visits, allowed to have contact, and happy for you to send that in an email.
Great, we will do
Off
that.
agenda. Great, thanks so much. Supervisor Wasserman, any questions for the sheriff? You're muted.
Thank you very much. I had one question at the very beginning of the report that was given. There was a number, I believe it said 1.4%, and I didn't jot down what that was in reference to.
Sure, that is in reference to staff that have only received one vaccine.
I'm sorry, so 1.4% of what population has only received one vaccine?
Of the vaccinated population for the sheriff's office staff. So a total of, so basically 581 of our, well, that was specific to the custody bureau actually. So 581 staff members are fully vaccinated and 12 have only received their first dose. And that is just of the vaccinated population.
Got it. Thank you very much for the clarification. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
With that, we will move to juvenile probation and Chief Garnett.
Thank you, Gary. Good afternoon, everyone. Great to see everybody. I'll turn this part over to Deputy Chief Burchard, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Ellenberg, Vice Chairperson Mr. Wasserman, Mike Wasserman. Thank you. Nice to see everybody again. Hope you had enjoyed your time off in the summer, finally. As far as juvenile custody settings go, we have no positive youth currently in juvenile hall at our James Ranch. We do have one positive staff currently out right now quarantining. Our testing regiment is definitely something I think that's helped quite a bit, as with the Sheriff's Department and their continued testing efforts for both all juvenile hall and the adult custody settings have really helped capture all of these folks who may be positive before they come in. And I want to thank Public Health and Custody Health for being able to provide those services to us, because it really does provide an extra layer of protection for the staff and the youth in both of our facilities. So as far as COVID updates go, that would be it for our positivity rate. For our staff, we probably have just our custody setting staff at about 60–65%, and our sworn probation officers and community probation officers are probably between 75%. It's getting better. As certainly we update that through the attestation process every 2 weeks, and so it does seem to be increasing every 2 weeks, and so I can report back on that as we get more and more staff vaccinated. Any questions?
Thanks, Nick. Go ahead, Supervisor Wasserman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a comment for Chief Garnett, unrelated to this. It's just related to a question I left on your voicemail for you for ProCom. And if you could get back to me on that off agenda, I'd appreciate it.
I certainly will, and I'm sorry, I did not know I had a voicemail message, but I will certainly get back to you.
Thank you.
And as far as, just real quick, as far as visiting, and I reported on our last report out that still continues. Parents are still able to see their children here in custody at both Juvenile Hall and the James Ranch. So education is in person 5 days a week. So that's been ongoing now for quite some time. Programs and services as well. So I'd like to say we're not back to normal, but we're certainly heading in the direction where we think that we've mitigated all the factors we need to keep people safe, keep kids safe as people come in and out of our facility.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
All right, with that, we'll move to custody health and Dr. Day.
Good afternoon, Supervisor Ellenberg and Supervisor Wasserman. Just to give you an update, and custody health services, we continue to adhere to very aggressive COVID-19 precautionary and infection control plans, especially for our congregate setting. And so we haven't changed much with some of the changes with the public guidances. However, we are continuing with our testing regimen. So all vaccinated staff are being tested once a week, and all non-vaccinated staff are being tested every day. As far as programming, our programming has been consistently pretty much normal. All medical, mental health, and dental counters are being had. The only exception is some of our groups. We haven't gotten fully back to all face-to-face groups. We are still running vaccination clinics for our patients. And so we have dedicated nurses that what they do is do education with our patients, as well as do any kind of triage with the patients, and then offer consents and vaccinations. And that's going on a regular basis. The patients are often always asked if they want to be vaccinated. And so we're offering about 99% on a rotating basis, again and again and again, encouraging our patients to be vaccinated. Right now, we have about 720 patients who have left and have been released from Custody Health Services that were either fully vaccinated and or partially vaccinated. And so we have a rolling number. We have about 45% currently to date that are vaccinated. But as you know, we have patients coming in and out, and so that number is always changing. And so that's my report. As far as vaccinated healthcare staff is about 87%, with about 13% that are non-vaccinated, and 96% of the healthcare staff are doing their testing as required. And that's the end of my report. Any questions?
Thanks so much. Just one question. You noted that some of the patients are partially vaccinated, and I know that we do have very much an in and out environment there. Are we not giving the Johnson & Johnson shots for just that reason?
We started out, Supervisor Ellenberg, with the Johnson & Johnson. Initially, we chose to use it exclusively. However, when Johnson & Johnson had to be taken off the market, a lot of patients got very concerned and were refusing vaccinations. So now what we do is we offer all three. And so we offer the Johnson & Johnson if they like that, and with the Moderna and with the Pfizer. So we have given the patient choice. And so of those 720 that have left, 672 are fully vaccinated.
Interesting. So most choose the, oh, no, that doesn't mean that they choose the Pfizer or Moderna. Do you just, I'm just curious, offhand, know, or have a sense of which vaccine is the most often requested?
So far, it's been the Moderna.
Moderna. Fascinating. Thank you. Supervisor?
Oh, ma'am.
All right.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Day. And we'll wrap it up by going to Matt Fisk from pretrial reporting on admin booking.
Thank you. Admin booking has definitely been towing the line. In addition to the normal services offered, their staff's 24/7, and they continue to provide assistance for all the programs, including the Sheriff's Work Program. And they also still play a role with the relatively few remaining CDCR prisoners that are in our jail. So I've actually got a workstation over there, I have a cubicle, and I'm able to work with them more frequently. So I'm learning more about their processes and how much great work they have been doing all along.
And your sound quality is great.
Thank you. Glad to hear that.
Supervisor Wasserman, do you have any questions for Matt? All right, then do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on item 4?
Yes, we do have a request to speak.
All right, let's do 2 minutes, please.
All right. The next speaker is Catherine Hedges. I'm unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking. Catherine, go ahead and unmute. Thank you.
Hi, is this agenda item number 5?
This is number 4.
Oh, sorry. Next item. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. That concludes our request to speak.
All right, thank you. We don't need a vote on that item, so we're going to move to item number 5 now, which is to receive a report from the Office of County Executive relating to a preliminary report on the community engagement process.
Thank you very much, Deputy County Executive Martha Lipinski. This will be a brief verbal update. I'm going to start with providing some context to put this in perspective. At the January board meeting, during discussion on a replacement jail facility, the board discussed community input sessions about the type of facility. And then in March, as one of the larger report backs on the framework for the county's justice involved clients, the board approved a public engagement process that seeks a range of views from the community. As a reminder, that 3-part framework that the board approved was number one, develop a plan to decommission Main Jail North and older housing units at Elmwood to improve the living conditions there. Second, to minimize the need for incarceration. And third, to expand behavioral health services. In June, the 120-day window started to conduct on the public input session to conduct surveys and focus groups as elements of that process to ensure a broad reflection of countywide views and values. So today we're right smack in the middle of the 120-day window. And I wanted to provide PSJC with a brief update in advance of a larger preliminary report that's coming back to this committee on September 2nd. As a reminder, we engaged 2 consultants, the Burns Institute, to conduct community input sessions, as well as in-custody surveys and focus groups for incarcerated individuals. The second consultant is EMC Research, and they're conducting surveys and focus groups with the general population. Both consultants will be presenting preliminary findings next month to this committee. So let me give you an update on what's been happening so far in this 120-day window and what's coming up next. I'll start with the Burns Institute. They facilitated 2 virtual community engagement sessions in early July with about 180 participants total. The plans for August are there'll be 4 focus groups with incarcerated individuals. There'll also be a survey of incarcerated individuals and their family members. And there will be an in-person community engagement session in August. We're finalizing plans with the location of the community. This will get advertised just like we did for the virtual sessions. And then obviously given the recent public health order, we've ensured that the venue has room for a large outdoor gathering. And obviously we'll adjust as public health orders may or may not be forthcoming. So that's the work of the Burns Institute. What EMC Research Group has done, they held general population focus groups, 2 of them in July. Their EMC's plans for the second half of the 120 days is a general population survey. They're working on this next phase based on the information gathered from the focus groups that have happened so far. And so let me just end on what this committee and the board can expect next. There'll be an off-agenda report going today or tomorrow with a list of EMC's general population focus group questions as early requested by the board. And then, as I mentioned, the preliminary findings will come back to this committee on September 2nd with a final report back here again in October. Then the final report will also go to the board in November as part of the report back on that framework that I mentioned earlier on the county's justice involved clients. So with that, I'll go ahead and take questions.
Thank you so much, Martha. I want to express appreciation to the county administration, the Burns Institute, and EMC for all of your work to ensure that community voices are heard and valued throughout this process. I do have a couple of questions that are really procedural. Understanding that you're coming back with detail in September, I'll hold any substantive questions for that prelim report. So with regard to the virtual engagement sessions, how were the perspectives given by community members? Were they recorded during the virtual engagement sessions, and will the in-person session be recorded, and how did those factor into the final report?
Okay, we haven't talked about recording the in-person session yet, but that's a great idea. Mm-hmm. With the virtual sessions, there were both kind of a main session as well as breakout rooms. Mm-hmm. Most of some of those sessions were recorded. The main sessions were recorded, and then we had numerous facilitators. Some of them forgot to turn the recording on, so we have some of the recordings, but not all of the breakout sessions. What we do have from the breakout sessions is something called a Jamboard, which is an electronic note-taking, note-gathering whiteboard, so to speak, where Burns Institute is taking both the recordings and those note boards to compile their analysis.
Interesting, thank you. I'm also curious about the time frame for the in-custody component. I know that has had some delays, and I'm wondering if you can share what the barriers are and how you're going to address those.
Oh, sure, and my apologies if we thought there was any barriers. There's actually not any barriers. Oh. We had a really productive meeting with the sheriff's office today. We're all set. We need to work out some housekeeping details in terms of the Burns Institute coming out. There'll be about 2, maybe 3 day session where they conduct both the in-person focus groups as well as the surveys. And we're working quite closely with the Sheriff's Office. They've been great collaborators on this project.
Right.
And from the discussion today, we're getting a wide swath of the jail population, both at Main Jail and Elmwood. And so more to come on that.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And I heard you say that the EMC questions will be included in the off agenda. Will that include the questions, the agenda and questions for the in custody components?
Let me check on that. I'm not sure if those are ready yet.
Okay, if they're not ready for this report, I still would like the board to receive those questions as well.
Absolutely.
So
I think we had planned, my apologies for interrupting. I think we had planned on doing a follow-up off agenda on those since they aren't quite ready yet.
Perfect. Martha, thank you so much. I know that this has been an immense lift and amount of work, and I think it's going to provide tremendous value in how we move forward as a community together. So really tremendous thanks to you for the leadership there. Supervisor Wasserman, do you have any questions?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Do any other members of the committee have questions? If not, looking. Do we have public speakers on item number 5?
Yes, we do have some public speakers.
All right, how many do we have?
We currently have 7 requests so far.
Okay, so let me just publicly say that when we hit 10, we move down in the amount of time allotted. So I'm going to ask for anybody who's interested in speaking on item 5 to please raise your hand now. And yes, Mike.
And Madam Chair, the public comment, we have the 3, 2, 1 minutes, and then the individual comment is the chair's discretion.
Thank you very much. And I'm happy to keep it at 2 minutes as long as we remain under 10 people. So let's do it. Thanks, Colin.
No problem. The next speaker is Kristen Brown. I'm unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Thank you. My name is Kristen Brown, and I am from District 2. I'm a member of Surge at Sacred Heart and a chairperson for the Community Advisory Committee for Special Education, SELPA 4, which is the largest district in Santa Clara County. I'm speaking in support of the Care First Jail Last Coalition. I am commenting on agenda number 5 concerning the reports about the 2 successful community engagement sessions. This 120-day community process has been great. I just really want to echo that concern about asking for the extension for the August 2nd health order impacting in-person attendance is something we would like to have in consideration. I'm glad that they're looking for an outdoor venue for this, because certainly that would help. We would like to thank the Haywood Burns Institute for the great Zoom community sessions thus far. The diversity of system impacted and non-system impacted folks overwhelmingly speaking against a new jail and in favor of alternatives was inspiring. And thanks to Ms. Maciel's report on juveniles, we have a better understanding of the disproportionate special education and mental health needs that are not far from what we know about incarcerated adults. As a county, we better serve the community, investing in mental health and disability support systems over new jails. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Catherine. I'm unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hello, my name is Catherine Ono. I live in District 4. I am also a member of Surge at Sacred Heart and speaking in support of the Care First Jail Last Coalition. I'm commenting on this item concerning reports about the 2 successful community engagement sessions. For the 120-day community process, the board may want to consider an extension due to the August 2nd health order requiring the use of face coverings, which may impact the in-person attendance. We would like to thank the Haywood Burns Institute for the great Zoom community sessions thus far. The diversity of both system impacted and non-system impacted folks overwhelmingly speaking against a new jail and in favor of alternatives was inspiring. In closing, we are echoing the community sessions and stating in stating that we do not want a new jail. Thank you for your time.
Next speaker is Catherine Hedges. I'm unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good afternoon. My name is Catherine Hedges. I'm from District 2 and a member of Surge at Sacred Heart. And just like everyone else, I'm speaking in support of the Care First Jail Last Coalition. Coming on agenda item number 5 concerning reports about the 2 very successful community engagement sessions. And I'd like to echo what everybody's saying, that the board may want to consider extension to the 120-day community process due to the health order. I'm glad that Hayward Burns Institute is looking for outdoor venues, but it will probably still affect attendance at the in-person meetings. And I don't want the process to be compromised because people need to protect their health. And the diversity of system impacted and non-system impacted folks that overwhelmingly spoke against a new jail and in favor of alternatives is very inspiring. I think this can make a big difference for our community. And in closing, we're echoing the community sessions and saying we do not want a new jail. And thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Raj Jaidev. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good afternoon. My name is Raj. I'm with Debug and the large coalition that some of the other public comments were speaking from, and just want to echo our appreciation for the county and the Burns Institute for the process thus far with the community engagement. I had the opportunity to participate in the virtual Zoom gatherings. And what I'd really encourage is for this committee to see if they could view some of the recordings or read the transcripts. I've had the chance to sit in a number of community engagement discussions led by the county or city. And I have to say,
Raj, we're losing you.
In this section, I was this.
Hey, Raj, your sound is coming in.
And the fact that we did the group sessions and the facilitators were incredible in drawing out folks to speak. And we had this broad range and reflection of the community that wasn't just advocate on one particular political lens. But by the end of it, we saw really almost complete consensus on those that this community didn't want a new. I really do hope you get a chance to see recordings. Like I said, I've never participated in anything that was county sponsored to soliciting comment or feedback or reflection that was this rich and textured in its responses. So please.
Hey, Raj, your sound has come in and out, which I am really sorry about. It sounded like you were pleased with the Burns Institute proceedings, which I'm delighted to hear. If your sound doesn't come back and you'd like to submit your comment in writing, we'd be happy to share that.
All right. The next speaker is Lauren Renaud. I'm unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, my name is Lauren Renaud. I'm with Surge, showing up for racial justice. I first want to encourage you to consider extending the 120-day period if needed, given what's going on with the pandemic, and ensure that as many people can participate as possible. And I want to echo what Raj said, what Andrew and Benet said earlier. I also attended one of the sessions. It was one of the best public meetings I've ever been to. There was such a mix of directly impacted and less impacted folks. I didn't hear anybody call for building a new jail, and it was just really incredible to actually be able to talk with other neighbors about this important question. I want to thank the county for creating the time and space for this feedback, and I ask you to please make sure this time is worth it by taking this feedback seriously when the results come to the committee and to the full board in a few months. This feels like such an opportunity to really think what we want, rethink what we want in the county and what we're willing to try, and to see if we can do better. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Stephanie. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, my name is Stephanie and I'm in District 2. I'm also a member of Surge at Sacred Heart, standing up for, showing up for racial justice. And I'm speaking in support of the Care First, Jail Last Coalition, agenda item number 5. Especially concerning reports about the 2 successful community engagement sessions that everybody has just been talking about. In this 120-day community process, we encourage the board to consider an extension due to the August 2nd health order requiring the use of face coverings, which might impact the in-person attendance. And also to thank the Hayward Burns Institute for the great Zoom community sessions, the diversity of system impacted and non-system impacted folks overwhelmingly speaking against the new jail and in favor of alternatives was inspiring. So again, we are just echoing the community sessions and stating that we do not want a new jail. Thank you all so much for your time.
Next speaker is Tina Brown. I'm unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good afternoon. My name is Tina Brown. I live in District 1. I am a system impacted family member and advocate with Silicon Valley Debug. I am also a member of the Care First Jail Last Coalition. I am speaking on agenda item number 5 concerning reports about the 2 successful community engagement sessions. I would like to echo that the 120-day window for community process, the board might want to consider an extension due to the August 2nd health order requiring use of face coverings, which may impact the in-person attendance. I would also like to thank Hayward Burns for the great Zoom community sessions thus far. The diversity of system impacted and non-system impacted people strongly against not wanting a new jail, but alternatives was very compelling. I am echoing the voices of the community heard during these sessions in stating we do not need a new jail. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Cynthia Longs. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking. And Cynthia, are you there? Cynthia going once? There you are.
I didn't unmute, sorry about that. My name is Cynthia Longs, hello. And I wanted to let you, well, I'm from District Council 2. I'm an Impact family member and a member of the Care First Jail Last Coalition. I'm speaking on agenda number 5, the successful community engagement sessions. I am suggesting that the board considers an extension to the 120-day community process due to the August 2nd health order, which is for mask mandates, which will impact the in-person attendance. I would like to thank the Burns Institute because I attended the sessions and I thought they did a great job. The fact that the system impacted and the adverse non-system impacted community does not want a new jail was not anything or a surprise to me. I am very happy that this came out. In closing, we do not want a new jail. Thank you for your time.
Next speaker is William Armeline. I'm unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, my name is Will Armeline. I'm the director of the San Jose State University Human Rights Institute and the Criminal Justice Chair for NAACP. I want to join my colleagues from Debug and Surge and other members of the Care First Jail Last Coalition. And first of all, thanking the county and members for leaving this really important time for community to share their voice. I want to share sort of kudos, if you will, to the consultants. Just like Raj, I had never really seen something like this done as well and as smoothly as I saw in these sessions before. And I also want to join his suggestion that members even consider watching pieces of the focus groups to the extent that those are available to you, because I think they're quite eye-opening. And I imagine some of you will share our observations and opinions on how that went. Lastly, I want to share and join my colleagues in pushing for more time due to the health order for all the reasons you've already heard, And again, trying to see if we can continue the kind of work that's been done thus far to bring a real diverse group of voices forward in this important conversation. Thank you again so much for your efforts, and we're happy to be part of this coalition.
Next speaker is Melissa. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, my name is Melissa. I am from District number 5. I am an impacted family member. I am also a debug advocate and part of the Care First Jail Last Coalition. I am speaking on agenda number 5 concerning reports about the 2 successful community engagement sessions. There is a 120-day community process. The board may want to consider an extension due to the August 2nd health order requiring use of face coverings, which may impact the in-person attendance. We would like to thank the Hayward Burns Institute for the great Zoom community sessions this far. The diversity of system impacted and non-system impacted folks overwhelmingly not wanting a new jail was very inspiring. In closing, we are echoing the community sessions and stating we do not want a new jail. Thank you, and thank you for including the community voices, especially the ones that are impacted. Thank you for your time.
And that concludes our request to speak.
Thank you so much. Before we move on, I want to make just a couple of quick comments in general response to the speakers. Hearing so much solid feedback about the content and the conversation, I think is really inspiring and encouraging. And I'm wondering, Martha, if we can get in an off agenda either links to the actual recordings or transcripts of the conversations for the portions that were recorded. Can we do that?
Yes, Supervisor, we did send an off-agenda report with that information on it. We're happy to send it again, just so everyone has it top of the email chain.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I was also thinking about the extension request. And what's interesting is that the original plan only had the virtual sessions because of COVID, with some pushing from a couple of board members. I may have been one of them. We encouraged you to add an in-person session specifically for people that may not have had access through the internet. I'm a little bit concerned that I don't know what the timing is for the new mask mandate, whether we're going to be in this situation for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. So I'm sort of loath to encourage an extension based just on that, but I would like to revisit that question after we have done the in-person session and can talk about the success of that, how many people turned up, and whether we think we need to do another, and would also like to consider in September, based on the amount of work that's been done and still is yet to be done, whether we in fact need an extension generally or if we're still on track for the 120 days.
Yes, we can get back to you on that.
Thanks. Supervisor Wasserman, anything else to add on this item?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that. I appreciate the feedback. Glad it's all going so well. It seems that whatever venue we have, in-person, indoor, outdoor, Zoom, Teams, whatever we call it, we get generally the same opinions expressed. And I know with our current masking system now that was just initiated, that has to do with Delta. Now we're becoming aware of another strain of virus that is not Delta and does not seem to be so afraid of our vaccinations. So I don't know if we're going to be entering into a whole nother phase of something. But I think whatever efforts that we are doing, whatever efforts we can do, whatever efforts we have done, have all yielded the same results and same opinion, as the speaker said, overwhelmingly from one perspective. So I think the people that are doing the outreach, doing the research, coming back with the opinion from the various venues that they've chosen thus far and are going to be doing next, will continue to get all the same opinion. So I think your idea of wait a little while, wait and see, to see where we're going with the current mask requirement, and then where things may turn if the new strain of virus that has appeared in Asia finds its way to the United States. But I think regardless of which way we go, we have a very good sense of where the community is at this point. So anything further, I think would just further reinforce the information that has been gathered.
And Supervisor Wasserman, if you have any concerns about the breadth of the outreach and the folks that are showing up, I would love to encourage you to, reach out to whoever you think should be participating in the conversations as well that may bring different voices. I think it's important that we do hear from a wide variety, but we can only hear from the people that make the effort to show up.
I appreciate that. I've been through this 3 different times over 11 years, and the same people show and the same people don't show.
Okay.
And that's just the reality of this particular issue. On issues of other type issues, you sometimes end up with 50-50, sometimes 75-25. % of similar opinion, whether it's in person, if it's daytime, if it's nighttime, if it's community, whatever it may be. And I appreciate all the people who've taken the time to speak up and share how they do feel each and every time. And the organizations. I think we have 3 organizations now that all share a similar perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't need a vote on that item either, so we'll move to item number 6, which is to receive a report from Custody Health relating to staffing and recruitment efforts.
Okay, good afternoon again. This is Eureka Day, Supervisor Ellenberg and Supervisor Wasserman. I'm going to try to share my screen, so just give me one moment. Okay, can you see that okay?
No. No.
Okay, let's see. Not yet?
No, you did get your presentation today.
Okay.
So that perhaps the clerk can pull it up from the agenda.
I'll have that up shortly.
I
Thanks,
appreciate it.
Jess.
Thank you. Okay, while Jess is pulling that up, I'll just tee this up. And again, I'm pleased to provide you an update on the initiatives for Custody Health Services to include both the staffing and the restructure initiative for Custody Health Services. Okay.
Okay, now we see it.
Okay, great. And if you can go to the next slide. Okay, and as you are aware, the restructure plan was approved by the board in April. And part of that was to provide periodic updates on where we are upon request. And so this is that quarterly report. And just in the last 90 days, I want to let everyone know what all we have been able to accomplish. And as you know, with the restructure plan, there were 2 phases of that. There was the mid-year plan where 33 positions were approved. And then there was the fiscal year 2021 plan, 21-22 plan. And that just came through in July, where an additional 13 positions were approved. And all of these positions were initially designed and aligned with many of the consent decrees and the consent decree deliverables that we have under that we need to deliver on. If you can see these new positions, they're in varying stages of hire. We've been doing quite a bit of work on getting these positions on board. And so they're in varying stages of hire, that's indicated on the right-hand column. Okay, next slide, please. And so this is the updated organizational chart, and you can't see the ledger very well, but it does indicate that this demonstrates the new positions that have been included in their org chart. And the mid-year positions are in the light blue, and you can see the arm of their reporting structure in the light blue. And then fiscal year 21-22 positions are in the yellow and the salmon color, and they've been added onto the org chart. Next slide, please. And so looking at, once we were approved in April, I gave the direction to all units and all managers and leaders to fill all vacant positions. But first, what we wanted to do was to true up what those vacancies were. So all leaders had to go through an iterative process and look at their position status report, and that's called the PSR. Sometimes there's a lag in that. Sometimes it may not be all cleaned up and caught up. And so just to make sure that the positions that were showing vacant and or filled actually aligned with what it was in reality. And so that went on for about a couple of weeks. And so we were able to true up the vacancy rates. And our overall position authority for custody health services, and those are the positions that have been approved, are 345.5 FTEs, and those are full-time equivalent. And at this rate, we have a 74% fill rate. And I just want to note that the fill rate at 74% is a point in time because all of these positions are in different phases of hire to include the interviews either have happened, they're going through background checks, we may be waiting for their clearances, and then the onboarding. But as long as they showed up as a vacancy on the PSR, we didn't count them into these fill rates that you're seeing. But they are actively being recruited. And so there's some variability. Once we get these positions on, of course, these percentages of fill will change. Next slide, please. Some of the activities we've been doing, and these have been pretty exciting, a lot of activity and folks have been involved in. We have put together a partnership with the Employee Services Agency, ESA, and Custody Health Services that we meet on a weekly basis. And part of this is to look at the recruitment and transformation of the things that we need to do. And as you know, and we have talked about before, and I think Dr. Smith has mentioned, that working in the custody health correctional services, as far as healthcare is concerned, medical, mental health, and or dental, is a niche population. So this is a unique setting where there's not a lot of folks that probably know about it, nor have they thought about working in this setting. And so we have had some compactions in getting hiring in the door. So we are coming up with some specific recruitment and retention strategies to not only to market, but to get folks that are really interested in this population of work hired and in the door. Also looking at training and promotion, what we have found is when we were looking at hiring some of the positions that we have some gaps in that promotional track. And so we're working with ESA, for instance, I can give you an example. If we have a clinical nurse 3, for instance, and then the next position up may be an admit administrative nurse 2. Well, in between there's certain positions that you probably need to matriculate through in order to be able to be considered for administrative nurse 2. And so we're looking at what those gaps in the promotional track are and ways that we could fulfill those gaps and again, encourage that promotion from within and encourage our staff to take advantage of these opportunities. And then, of course, I already mentioned that we're looking at tailored marketing to build capacity, to build a yield in the community for folks to want to come and work for us in custody health services. Another thing we did since our April meeting is that we put together what's called a Nursing Professional Performance Committee. And this is a PPC. And what this is we have representatives from all the sites and include juvenile services, Main Jail, and Elmwood. And these are nurses that have been selected to represent their colleagues. And so we're meeting on a monthly basis, and we are trying to address issues that come up in real time. And so we're addressing issues in real time. The nurses that are selected to be a part of this committee and the leadership, nurses and leadership and myself, look at issues, we try to resolve those issues. If we don't resolve them, then we have action items around them. We also have a subcommittee that's a part of that group, and the subcommittee also is representative of all sites. And the subcommittee is directly working with the nurse managers, and they're looking at the hiring practices, as well as vacancies. And so that's a subcommittee of the Professional Performance Committee. Another thing we're doing and actively doing is looking at employee health and wellness and employee engagement. And so I've convened a work group to put together activities and to address health and wellness. We have done health and wellness surveys. We have some activities that are currently planned every weekend, every Saturday for the next several weeks through October. We have activities that are being led in the community around health and wellness. We're also looking at sites across all of the facilities to put together what's called wellness rooms so that staff can take a break in an ambient setting with maybe soft music, but away from things so that they can basically take a break from the work. We have also restructured our 8A. This was another work group that was represented across all, I'm getting a dry throat, excuse me, all classifications and codes that were participating in this. And so what we're doing now with our 8A is it's going to be a acute psychiatric center, an acute psychiatric unit. And we have identified and designed admission criteria, discharge criteria, treatment arm for that. And patients are no longer just staying there for 3 days, perhaps under 5150, but they're staying there as long as clinically necessary. And then there will be discharge criteria that they were stepped down to a lower level of care. The whole person care model is an initiative for the county. So we're working pretty aggressively in standing up the whole person care model, working with Valley Medical Centers so that we don't have to replicate everything, but getting their guidance as well. And so we've been working with the ambulatory care nursing group, looking at some of the structures that they have in place, because there are certain components of the whole person care that are specifically for nursing, and also working with Dr. Go, who is the director of population health. And Dr. Go has been able to work with our physicians. He's come and toured the facilities. We've had a couple meetings looking at key performance indicators around chronic care and around HEDIS measures. We've restructured our data governance, and basically this is just a retool as we're starting to look at key performance indicators as well as thresholds of measurement. And a lot of these are driven by our consent decrees. And then we're also looking at, on a future date, to put together a public-facing dashboard. We do have a dashboard in the HealthLink record that is not visible to anyone other than if you can get into HealthLink, the electronic record. But we're looking at putting together a public-facing dashboard. We've retooled our quality management team and our quality management structure, so that will include subcommittees, and each unit will have a subcommittee where they will be reporting up to the committee. And then the committee, which is a quorum, as well as with voting members, will make recommendations back down. Items that come up to the subcommittees, up to the quality management team from subcommittees will stay on action items until they show that they have been able to either address those, fill the deficiency, and or sustain those over time. Then, of course, we have a part of the restructure was putting together a dedicated discharge planning unit. And so we are right now in hiring those medical unit clerks on board. We have already identified leads, and what that will be is that we'll have medical unit clerks on every shift, morning, noon, and evening shift, knock shift overnight, and they will be working in tandem with our release officers. So those patients that particularly have unplanned discharges, that we can do their medication reconciliation, make sure that they have their discharge information in hand when they're being released. Next slide, please. We also have committed to look at our staffing and staffing study. And so right now what we're doing and what I'm doing is consulting with some experts out there in integrated healthcare for correctional settings. There's several different vendors out there where they are subject matter experts. They have histories of working in this type of setting. They know what the nuances are. Many of them are very familiar with consent decrees, what the expectations are, and have worked in other venues across either facilities that have consent decrees that are under some kind of either receivership and or a special master. And so I'm still looking at who those vendors are. And part of what we're asking them to do and what they would be charged to do is to assess the unique challenges in a custody setting, as well as what the resource demands are in a correctional healthcare setting. And so that would be one of the things we ask them to do. And then also to design a staffing model for a post-COVID-19 environment. And so based on, under traditional circumstances, what should that staffing model look like? And that also would include performance matrix according to the best practices for county jails in the area and in the industry. Next slide. Some of the matrix that we look to develop and look to be able to measure over time is to develop a dashboard to track healthcare utilization and patterns, and also to adopt industry standards to determine that staffing pattern. And hopefully a vendor will help us be able to do that. And some of that, of course, and in order to do a staffing analysis and a staffing model, it does take a certain level of expertise and a certain level of skill set. And so what we will be looking at through a vendor with that assistance is task analysis, time and motion studies, productivity auditing, outcome analysis, and then process analysis. And then, of course, look at comparative sister facilities and other comparable healthcare systems out there for corrections. And then again, a big part of what we will be doing under all of this is to analyze the unbudgeted time for healthcare services overall, and to include what is it, that overtime that we are accruing for 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, 365-day a year care. And then we would get recommendations based on that. And then again, looking at the labor distribution because not, every area of correctional healthcare is not the same. Some of it is based on acuity of the patient, level of care. And so we will look at the labor distribution based on the patient health and then the patient acuity levels. And that's the end of the slide presentation. Any questions?
Dr. Day, thank you very much. That's a really robust, full report with lots of interesting information. I particularly appreciated hearing about your emphasis on wellness for your staff. I imagine and have heard that custody health is absolutely one of the highest stress jobs in the county. And I think that that's critically important. So thank you so much for thinking of your employees in that way. Was also interested in the shifts that you're making in 8A with the step down. I'm a little bit surprised and concerned that hadn't been the policy, because it certainly sounds like it makes a lot of sense. So thank you for that. I want to just put in a request for the next quarterly report. In November, I know the sheriff will be talking about general grievances, and I would be very interested at that same time to hear how your department reacts and responds to medical grievances. I would argue that that's some of the most important information, of course, that really identifies patient needs and whether they are met and unmet. So I would like to request a focus on your department's use of medical grievances and how you identify then areas to improve service. And I'd like the report to include some of the following details, please. How many grievances are received a month? And because of the time we're living in right now, divided COVID related and non-COVID related, do the people that submit grievances receive direct responses? Can you analyze or show us how many times in the past year changes have been made to service in direct response to grievances? And of course, whatever additionally you think is important for us to know. Can that work for the November report?
Absolutely, very good. As a matter of fact, I just had this conversation yesterday.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Supervisor Wasserman, do you have any questions for Dr. Day?
Thank you. More of a comment for Dr. Day. I saw in the new positions and recruitments that you've already filled 6 of the 46 new positions that you're after, and I appreciate the update. And I appreciate your being on that. I'm so excited about us not only getting back to full strength, but also kind of a reorg, having the people and the positions that we need to perform the services that you've analyzed and determined as most necessary. And I'm so happy to hear, with the dollars coming from the Fed and the improvement, the status quo in the economy, that we're able to do these things. If this was the $250 million deficit we were looking at 9 months ago, it would be a whole different world. Now the cup is half full instead of half empty. Congratulations, and I wish you the best of luck.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I also needed to give a shout out to the org chart. I do love a good org chart.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Colin, do we have speakers on item 6?
Yes, we do.
All right. How many does it look like we have? Looks like
currently
one.
have one speaker.
All right. Let's do 2 minutes, please.
The next speaker is Ron Hansen. I'm unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good afternoon, supervisors and committee members. I am Ron Hansen, affiliated with People Acting in Community Together. I'm pleased to see the expansion of custody health staffing, and in particular, those positions charged with quality control and outcome and productivity analysis. As Supervisor Ellenberg has mentioned earlier, she's kind of stole my thunder, but Nevertheless, as has been highlighted in several earlier reports, discussions, and forums since the Sheriff's Office began publishing jail grievance data back in 2018, medical grievances have consistently ranked at the top or near the top of all grievances month after month, year after year. More concerning, and despite the women's jail facility having the fewest detainees of any of our 3 county jail facilities, the women's medical grievance rate, that is grievances per 100 inmates, is routinely 3 to 5 times greater than that of the men. Month after month, year after year, this disparity persists. So I also urge Custody Health, as it pursues its work plan, especially with augmented staff for the current year, to investigate, analyze, and resolve those persistent grievance issues so that as the spring rolls around, medical grievances, and specifically those originating in the women's unit, that root causes can be reported as having been identified and that remediation measures have been put in place. The data is clear and available. Please use it to drive corrective action. Anything less, as we all know, is just running in place. Thank you.
That concludes our request to speak.
Thank you very much. Again, no vote is required on this item. Item 7 then is to receive a report from pretrial services relating to annual population trends.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. Is my sound okay?
It's a little gravelly.
Okay. See if I can get a little bit closer and
thanks.
Okay. Legislative file was not very informative. Most of the information is in the slide presentation. And give me one moment, please. I wonder, Colin, are you available to bring that up to the screen?
One moment, please.
I think it'd probably operate better
Apologies,
that way.
I have it coming.
Okay. I really appreciate that.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you, Jess. This is an opportunity for us to do our annual report. It used to be quarterly, and then it was semi-annual. Now it's annually, and it was opportune to also talk about what's happened over the past decade. We can go ahead and move on to the next slide, please. Pretrial services currently performs these main assignments. We have the jail assignment, where we screen people 24/7. We have the office assignment, which also does something very unique that I've not seen in other pretrial agencies in our country, and that is to provide family court background reports. It's one of our challenges to keep up with those, because we've taken what was a 7 to 10 day turnaround, and then now it's 1 or 2 days. That's been essential as limitations and services for victims of domestic violence, family violence. They really rely on the judges to be able to have information and make swift decisions. And so I'm proud of staff being able to reduce those turnaround times. We do pretrial supervision. There's been quite an increase in our client load, for which we're grateful, and we have staff to accommodate that. We currently have almost 1,000 people with electronic monitoring orders, and another 1,500 people that are on supervised owner cognizance release. In addition, we recently launched a diversion program to help to provide the court support with many individuals who might otherwise be on a court supervision sort of probation. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So if we go back 10 years, if you go back to the far left top kind of peach section of the chart, you can see that pretrial services back in 2011 supervised about 1,000 people. And over the summer, we tripled that. And what's important about that is we were able to, with a lot of help from all of you, triple the number of people that we supervise outside of jail and in the community, and to sustain the same relatively high performance rates as far as safety, compliance with court orders, and court attendance. Our jail population hit what I believe was its most recent high in 2014. This is about the time that the Board of Supervisors ordered the formation of the Bail and Release Work Group. We had nearly 4,400 people in custody. Over the summer, that went down with the health and safety releases and a number of other measures. It got down to just above 2,000. So the jail population was reduced by almost half. At this moment, our focus is not to add a bunch of additional programs, but to make sure that what we're doing is really working, fidelity, and to fill the positions that we have. We hope to follow the pattern of Dr. Day, who's really working swiftly to put great people in those positions. I've seen some of the folks that she's hired, and I think she's making wonderful choices. Okay, we can go to the next slide. As you can see, red is the safety rate, orange is the compliance rate, and blue is the appearance rate. So if you go back 10 years, it's relatively the same. The one that fluctuates is the appearance, where 3 out of 4 or 2 out of 3 people will make every single scheduled court appearance. So if a person misses one court appearance, they won't appear on this chart. They don't count into the successful pool. Now, where we're most concerned is about safety, people not getting rearrested for new offenses, and compliance is really kind of a gateway to new arrest. If a person is violating a no contact clause, that's a real concern. We consider that a technical violation. And if the case is closed and they're held responsible, if they are, let's say, convicted of a technical compliance violation, then they don't count into this chart either. Usually, most people, well above 90% of people, will not get rearrested and convicted on new charges that pertain to conditions of release, nor will they break the court's orders. And most people will continue to attend court. That's been demonstrated really clearly over the last decade. We can go to the next chart. The question was asked of me. So currently, who's in jail and who's out of jail, demographically speaking? On the far left, you can see that our current breakdown, jail population, most of the people that are, well, there's a larger percentage of people out of custody that are in a pretrial scenario than those that are in custody. We have about 2,607 clients that we supervise in the community. Inside the jail, most of the people that are in jail are awaiting adjudication of one or more charges. They might be serving time on some charges, but if they have one open charge, they're in that orange section. So they are considered pre-sentence. And then that small gray area represents the 200 or 300 or so people that are actually serving time. At this point, most of them are serving county time as opposed to prison time. For a while, we had 200 to 300 people that were really sentenced to prison, but our Sheriff's Department, admin booking, were providing that service because of the admirable job they've been doing with the coronavirus, rather than the struggles the prison was having. So if we looked at those 4 categories, the total jail population, total pretrial jail population, total out of jail pretrial population, and those that are sentenced, they pretty much match. 5 or 6 out of 10 individuals are Latinx. About 2 out of 10 are white, and the percentages follow. It's pretty much a match for those that are in custody as those that are out of custody. One of the things I've noticed is most of the individuals will prefer English as their language of preference. I don't think that this is a large immigrant population. I can't really directly attribute that, but I would say that it's a relatively small proportion of the people that we supervise, at least out of custody, that claim Spanish as their primary and preferred language. Okay, if we could go on to the next slide. This simply indicates how, if you were to close one eye, maybe squint one eye and kind of look at the gray scale, you can see how the jail population has gone down. There are less people in jail that are in jail because they can't pay to get out. There are less people in jail who are in jail on holds, just wouldn't be released even if they had money. And there are less people in jail that are sentenced prisoners. So that's gone down. The blue and purple and green sections represent the diversification of approaches in supervision. We used to have owner cognizance release, basically OR release monitoring, and then we had a more supervised pretrial supervision. And it wasn't that long ago that we had just started with our electronic monitoring program and just had a handful. So I think my speakers may have changed. Now we're even affording opportunities for those who qualify where the court deems it appropriate. People can serve in the voluntary home detention program where, should they be convicted and otherwise have to serve time in jail, they will actually be granted credit for time they would otherwise serve in jail.
Madam Chair, may I interrupt Matt for a moment?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair to Matt. Matt, on this chart, just so I understand, I saw 2015, the first column, and I didn't know if that was year end or average for the year. And then you went 4 years later, and then you went either 2 months later, or then you went 1 month later, 1 month later, then 1 month later, and then 2021 average, and then 2022 through date. Can you just help me understand? Because when I look at a bar chart, my natural assumption is each column is a similar period of time. I just think stocks.
Oh, yes, yes. I've never invested in stocks, and I probably shouldn't at this point, but I will take your great question. And so I should have explained the timeframes. We count the calendar years. Excuse me. Yes, we're counting the averaged client loads in each of those categories for each year. However, when we approach March, April, and May, and then June through December 2020, we wanted to zoom in so you could see the shift, significant shift, people being released, many of whom were released to supervised release, electronic monitoring, voluntary home detention. And then we got back on track with the annual measure, and we're looking at how 2020 looks so far. And then we're simply predicting 2022. That's a good observation, sir.
Thank you. So if I may, in 2015, the pre-jail bail of 1,200 was the average number of monthly people, not an annual figure.
Yes.
Okay. And then if I go to April 20th, the pre-jail bail number has dropped to 650 for that month alone.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And if I go,
the client load. Sure.
Okay. And if I go to 2021, pre-jail bail is 925. So although it's on a lower horizontal plane than April 20th, it's actually 50% bigger than April 20th. If you look at April 20th,
yes,
April 2020, pre-jail bail is 2 inches off the bottom, 1.5 inches off the bottom. Pre-jail bail in 2021 is 1.25 inches. So when I look at that visually, I think pre-jail bail went down, but it actually increased 50%. So something else must have changed somewhere else that made that column lower, although it wasn't pre-jail bail because that went up 50%. Am I reading that correctly?
You are reading it correctly.
Okay.
And there was a shift there. It's a combination of things, and I'd be happy to report back on what that combination is.
That's not necessary. I was just looking at pre-jail bail because it was an item in the middle of each column. In 2015, it was upward at 1,200. 2019, it was down to 750. And the bar for pre-jail bail was lower than the bar for 2015. So that made sense. In 2020, it stayed about the same, 750 to 800. Then in April 20, it dropped down to 650. So I understood that. And then I was going across the column, and then I saw in 2021, it jumped to 925, but it looked like it was trending down over the last 6 years. But in fact, it's the second highest it's been.
Yes, there's a couple of, sure. And I would be happy to provide additional information if you'd like, Supervisor Wasserman, on that.
As long as you're good with your numbers, it's just visually misleading or distorted. But as long as your numbers are correct, I can handle numbers. I'm good with that.
Okay, sure.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Once again, for 2022, that's a prediction. We don't know what lies ahead, as you commented. We hope to move forward and to see the overall population continue to reduce through diversion efforts, things like that. Okay, I think we can move to the next slide unless other questions on that.
Nope.
No, okay. So the number of people on the top is the number of people that we review at the jail. We're basically the reviews along with the bookings are down by about a third. However, I'm not really giving the admin booking staff and the pretrial staff credit here for reviewing all the $0 bail cases that fall outside this chart, because we're looking at each and every one of those to see if they have one or more felonies or two or more misdemeanors or other circumstances. You can see that on the bottom, our pretrial supervision caseload rose, and it was at an all-time high last year at this time. And since then, we've, through a number of measures, been able to stabilize it more. So right now it's been flat for about 6 months. We can go to the next chart. This is what's really grown the supervisors and partners. The electronic monitoring and really got started back in 2014 or so, a little bit before that, but we've grown a lot, and especially over the last couple of years. This is how many judicial orders are in effect right now. At any given moment, we have 50 or 60 people that have appointments, or we're getting them in to get them connected to electronic monitoring devices. Another part, a much more scaled down part of electronic monitoring, is the app. We have 836 people using the app. But I won't do any math here. It's not my forte. But if people had served these days in jail, it would be a tremendous cost to the community that has been averted thanks to these efforts. And people largely have been really a lot more productive in the community, and they have a lot more to show for themselves when they do go to court. Okay, I think we can go to the next slide. The National Institute of Corrections, we received technical assistance from them, and they've always encouraged us to measure the things that we're measuring: safety, compliance, appearance, and overall success. If we could go to the last two slides. The next slide. So as you can see, the maybe the one before that, I'm sorry. As you can see, this goes back, this is 3 years. You can see that the safety rates are relatively stable, although there have been some dips. And I suspect that this has to do with kind of batches of case closures, because we measure our success upon case closure. But for the most part, safety and compliance are above 95%. And if we could go to the last slide, I'd like to share with you the appearance rates. Now, these have fluctuated quite a bit. Right now, this month, it's 2 out of 3 people are attending court, every single court appearance. A month or 2 ago, it was better. It was closer to 3 out of 4 people. And court has resumed. Arraignments are really protracted. If a person is released from jail, they may not attend court for several weeks or even a couple of months. But the court's really picking up speed and hearing as many cases as possible. And I've seen a lot of judges volunteer to review additional cases each week above and beyond their assignments. Judge Pennypacker is one of those judges. Yes, Mr. Wasserman.
Thank you, Mr. Fisk. Through the chair, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Matt, would you attribute the April, May, June, July to the lockdown?
Yeah, I'd
The
say
COVID
so.
lockdown?
I would say so. When they were going to have court, they were really going to have court, and some of those appearances were done virtually.
Okay,
online.
it just seems like that's when we were shut down.
Yeah, that really makes us look good, but we should not take credit for that because it's not the normal way of operating.
Nope, so it looks like we're back to where we were 2 years ago, the 49, 48%.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
It really changes it when you just factor in, what is of the greatest importance to the Board of Supervisors, safety and technical compliance and or court appearance. And so we're really looking at the way that we're measuring things, and this is a chance to see how things go in the future. I appreciate any suggestions you might have.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Sure. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to field any questions, take any ideas or concerns.
Thank you so much, Matt. I do have some questions, but first it was brought to my attention that I did not call on Sylvia Perez McDonald, who had her hand raised for item 6. So Sylvia, first, my apologies. Happy for you to make your comment now. And second, to all of you, if I'm missing you, please just unmute and speak up. I do try to look, but obviously fall through.
Thank you. My comment was just for Dr. Day. I think that part of the public comment about the challenge that Custody Health has in addressing some of the complaints for medical, that is obviously going to be a challenge for her. She's going to report back on that. But I think one of the items that keeps getting missed and that I just wanted to bring up as a suggestion to her was that a lot of times the attorney and the advocate for the client, because of confidentiality issues, is looped out of the equation. And I recognize that as an organization, as an institution, when staffing changes, with new personnel, with procedures not being familiar, with sometimes numbers and contact information of personnel changing, that we have not been very good, frankly, as a group to be well informed and connected. And so I just wanted to offer and extend to Dr. Day a better and improved collaboration with defense agencies and defense counsel so that we could either triage and help identify that complaint that has gone through the institution that may not necessarily need to go through the institution, because the attorney and the advocate could be a voice for that patient, for that client. And I just wanted to say that. I was going to communicate with Dr. Day separately to identify that as an opportunity, but sure. I thought that would be something productive to do.
Right. And Sylvia, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and we actually have put some processes in place for that, so I can fill you in on that later.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. District Attorney Rosen.
Well, that can't be. He wasn't going to speak, Madam Chair.
Well, his hand's up.
I'm kidding you. I know.
Oh, yes, that's a reference to something I said earlier, right before the meeting began. I just wanted to thank Matt Fisk and Pretrial Services for the good work that they're doing, because they are enabling us to have more people that are supervised outside of jail than inside of jail. And we are one of the few counties that has a pretrial services department. We were the first county and the only county in the state to have one for many years. And it's really enabled us to keep our jail population as low as it is and have our community be as safe as it is. The one thing I would add to what happened in 2014, when our jail population hit a high and then since then has fallen to below 50%. 2014 is when Prop 47 was passed, and that had an enormous impact statewide on prison populations and jail populations because of reducing the number of low-level offenses from felonies to misdemeanors. And in addition, over the last couple of years, our decision, my decision to send essentially drug use or under the influence cases to public health and not bring them into the court system has also contributed to the reduction in our jail population. In addition, COVID over the last year and a half has also contributed to that reduction as well. And but again, I'm just very pleased to have such a well-functioning pretrial services department that works very collaboratively and helps to yield really good results. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Matt, thanks for the presentation. I really am encouraged by the creative and committed work that you're doing at pretrial services to really ensure that as many people as possible remain home and, as you said, are able to continue to be productive members of their communities. I do have a couple of questions because I know that while it certainly is a tremendous advantage to have people not be physically incarcerated, awaiting trial, we still are talking about a pretty high level of supervision. And I'm interested to know about the risk assessment tools that pretrial uses. How are we defining risk?
Absolutely. And if I could just comment to our district attorney's comment, thank you. And as you know, sir, we don't do any of this alone. Knowing that we can hand them off to the probation department with their sentence, they'll be in good hands and a longer term methodical wraparound plan. And knowing that we have your open collaboration, defense counsel, and the sheriff's support, that's how we're able to do it. The risk assessment tools. So actually, had you been here, Supervisor Ellenberg, in 2010, June of 2010, you probably would have signed on to the order for the then pretrial services director, Gary Hersig, to implement a validated risk assessment tool, which he fulfilled. Not only did he do that, he collaborated with all the partners and they implemented the first in California empirically and locally validated assessment tool. So it was the first validated tool in California, and we've been using it since then. It was implemented 2011, 2012 timeframe, quite an undertaking. And we receive visits all the time from other counties and from other jurisdictions based on that tool. I'd like to be really clear, it does not assess needs. What it does assess or measure is the likelihood of 3 categories of risk. Those categories are new offenses, arrests, new technical violations, and failing to attend even one court hearing. So what we seek are no new offenses or arrests, no new technical violations, and attending no missed court hearings, attending all court hearings. That's a risk assessment tool that's been in place based on local and empirical validation. We also use the domestic violence tool called the ODARA, developed in Canada, and it will measure the likelihood of domestic violence. We also receive lethality assessments, which we really appreciate and are very hopeful for the court. We recently moved to the PSA, the Public Safety Assessment Tool. And I'm happy, and I'm sure you'll be relieved to hear that it's been validated against racial bias in multiple jurisdictions. It's based on the largest data sample ever in pretrial history. Started off with 750,000 samples, and the ongoing production samples over 500,000. So we will obviously also be doing our own validation study locally, because we would need to adjust for characteristics of our community that are quite different from others. And so we recently shifted to that and are gathering feedback from all the partners and how it's working.
Thanks. I've been reading about the PSA tool as well. And one of the interesting pieces to me is that we know, and I think you noted at the beginning, that above 90% of folks that are released pretrial will show up. So what we're looking at is assessing amongst people that are highly likely to show up anyway, is there an additional risk based on behavior that they haven't done yet? How much of a difference that really makes. And I'm wondering if you know if there are any successful communities or examples in which risk assessment tools are not used.
I actually cannot say that I know of any communities that have been successful or they're not using tools because they don't benefit from from an objective baseline to avert that knee-jerk reaction of, oh, the charges. Oh, they're not from here. That must mean they're going to go to court or they're going to cause problems. The charges must be true. Honestly, and the communities that I know of that haven't used risk assessment tools don't know where to start to measure.
Thanks.
They try, yeah. Honestly, absent a risk assessment tool, a fair, measured, hopefully frequently calibrated tool, we would have to rely on human nature, which can be difficult to predict.
Indeed.
I want to say this carefully. The judges are very good at following fact patterns and using their clinical experience, and they really listen to the defense counsel and the prosecution and witnesses that emerge into the courtroom. They also get a lot of information that's very early in development. And so we would have to rely on a relatively subjective setup.
Which I'm not suggesting. I'm just trying to learn more. And in fact, since you brought up judges, Judge Zahner, I wonder if you want to weigh in on how judges use the risk assessment tools in the courtrooms.
Sorry, it took me a moment to unmute. First of all, as Matt and his team know very well, and he commented on this, we have a group of judges who are regularly and routinely assessing the reports coming in upon arrest and making initial decisions even prior to arraignment based on the risk assessment tool and the information they're receiving from pretrial services on whether and on what terms, if so, to release defendants. And similarly, I mean, it continues into the courtroom on arraignment, and there you have the additional benefit of the information coming from the district attorney's office and from the defense counsel, as Matt alludes to, and all of that just continues to give the judges more information and regular information and valuable information to inform their decision-making as they move forward with the cases.
Thanks, I appreciate that as well. Matt, I just have a couple of questions about the use of the electronic monitoring bracelets. I really am glad to see that the jail population has been significantly reduced. Do you think that in custody monitoring is being replaced by out of custody surveillance? And I'm, again, thinking about our presumption of people being innocent pre-trial, they haven't been convicted. How do we determine whether a person needs the electronic monitor rather than just being released into the community through any of the programs you mentioned or just ROR?
Yeah, it might be best for me to defer to the expert Judge Zahner on how the judges relate to those decisions.
Great.
But
Great.
it's a great bridge.
Thank you. Happy to hear from the judge again.
Sure, and it is a case-by-case fact-based analysis, and I'm not trying to dodge the question, but that it has to be addressed that way. And the judicial officer or the judge is then making that assessment again at all of those phases, whether and how it's appropriate to release, most appropriate to release an individual to assure community safety, continued court appearances, and if possible, depending on the charges and the risk assessment, to have them continue to be productive members of the community while they're awaiting arraignment or trial.
And people are able to go to work, and move around in their communities with the bracelets, or are they mostly in-home restriction?
Well, it depends. I mean, the conditions and the geographic range can be placed on them to be limited to stay at home other than to go to work or to school or to programs, whatever the case may be.
Thanks. I really appreciate both of you, and I'm interested in continuing to learn in this area. Do we have
Sylvia?
Supervisor Wasserman, did I go to you? Do you have questions on this item?
Just Sylvia's there.
Thank you. Sylvia, go ahead.
So one related question for me was, and I guess both it's an observation and a question. One is with the delays that are occurring in the court in terms of the court process and how long it's taking and how long it will take, given the statistics that Judge Zahner shared with us. One of the challenges that remains is when we have individuals on electronic monitoring or any other surveillance, and that is successful and it's working, but it's being prolonged unnecessarily, not because of their fault, but because the court process is taking longer than usual. My question to Matt was whether your staff is routinely or monitoring this so that they can provide an opportunity to downgrade. In other words, to inform the court that the surveillance or the supervision type that was initially considered to be highly regimented and necessary may not be so needed as time happens. Because one, for expense, right? Because we don't want to continue to use the monitoring system that is expensive for everyone when it's not necessary. And two, also to care for the individuals that are subject to this kind of monitoring, because they're going to be in the court process for some time. And I can just say, for time wave trials that are happening, I don't know how long it is going to be for us to be able to process these cases. They could be months, years, actually. So that is something that we have to actually start talking about in terms of how we're going to continue to downgrade and monitor these people without the unnecessary restrictions that may be called for.
Thank you, Sylvia. Yes, case assignments are a daily assignment of our supervisors. The constant intake, we take all of the clients of the court orders and do our best to fulfill those court orders, either connecting them to bracelets at our office or sometimes at the jail. And lately, behavioral services has brought some of them to us. Now, I'm glad you brought it up, because actually we have it ebbs and flows. Continuously, the officers are to look at people and determine whether we are really only applying the least restrictive conditions reasonably necessary to assure safety, compliance, and attendance. And sometimes time gets away from us, and so we will issue deadlines. We have one of no later than this coming Friday to have everybody look at their client loads and see which ones can be stepped down. So we plan to approach the court, and we'll probably have a number of people that may not be taken off pretrial supervision altogether, but they can probably have the bracelet taken off.
Thanks, Celia. Thanks for the question, and Matt for the response. Do we have anybody else?
I forgot to give the judge credit. I'm sorry. And Judge Zahner and others will review that at each court hearing as well. I forgot to mention that. So
you are excellent at sharing the credit always, Matt. Thank you. Do we have any public speakers on this item?
We do have a couple of speakers.
All right, let's do 2 minutes, please.
The next speaker is Nerly Campos. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, my name is Nerly Campos. I'm with Silicon Valley Debug, and we do support Matt's pretrial work, but we just wanted to add that although we are happy to see folks getting released and less people in the jail, we are still concerned with the high number of people on system supervision. We believe that our community release project is a viable alternative to supervision. Some of the ways that we've been supporting folks by getting out of custody is that we've been able to transport folks from jail to their housing situation, either being their home, a housing program, a reentry to the reentry center for social services, and also transporting folks to their court hearings. Also, person will have a service navigator, so someone who can connect them to housing, employment, substance abuse, and mental health supports. Also inviting them to our weekly community support meetings to stay on top of the court dates and court support, and reminding them of calls for court. And we are now able to provide people who don't have phones, smartphones with prepaid minutes on it. So yeah, just believing that community support could be also an alternative to supervision. Thank you.
The next speaker is Scott Largent. I'm unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Thank you, everyone. Scott Largent. I've always been impressed with the work you've been doing, Matt. So 2 thumbs up from Scotty on that one. I am a little confused about this assessment tool that is used to determine who gets out, who gets an ankle monitor, who gets to, I guess, be re-released into the public. My main focus is this tool tailored to be able to handle the mentally ill and homeless that are pretty much being let out that front door and ending up down in that humanitarian disaster down the street at the crash zone. I don't think a lot of these people are safe. I think you're releasing people out of the jail with absolutely no hope. I don't think you're putting ankle monitors on people in fields, but I don't know. I think we need to make room out at Elmwood. I think a lot of people would be better off incarcerated rather than trying to fend for themselves in the middle of that disaster. They're not getting the mental health and behavioral health services. There is nobody really out there from the county. Broken record over and over again, but I'm really getting sick and tired of seeing people get ran over in traffic that should have been on some type of behavioral health hold. I don't really have the time clock in front of me. I'm not sure why that's not in front of me right now. I'll wrap things up with, we need to figure out what happened to that woman that was released 2 or 3 days ago from the jail, and why she wandered traffic for days on end, and why she was pulling people off of bicycles and playing Frogger, and why did that happen for such a long time with nobody doing anything? So I'd appreciate you guys trying to figure that out. She should have been on some type of hold. Thank you.
Next speaker is Rosie Chavez. I'm unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Okay. Hi, my name is Rosie Chavez. I'm with Silicon Valley DBUG. I am connected with doing the community release program and working in the fields of substance use and mental health for over 14 years. I actually strongly believe that a community support helps folks when they're actually there, when we're in court, and we're there to help them and show that they have support on the outside through the community. I've been able to actually be in court, have someone released to me, take that person to their place of living, whether it be a home or a program. Also sitting right next to them at the reentry center, filling out forms with them, making sure they get the services that they do need. And so I've seen that being very successful. And I do keep up with the ones that I have been able to pick up and take to these programs. So I believe that a lot of community support with the community release project program does work. And we'd like to continue working with Matt on that as well, because it has been very successful on my end on the people that I have been able to support. Thank you.
And that concludes our request to speak.
Thank you very much. Item 8 was approved on consent. Item 9 is reserved for announcements by any of the committee members. I have one, but I'd like to look to all of you on the screen to see if any of you have an announcement. And Supervisor Wasserman, I assume you'll help me if I can't see anybody.
There's no one.
Okay, so what I'm happy to share, and in fact, I was certain that Ron Hansen was going to steal my thunder here because he actually shared this news with me, which is that as of on July 28th, the combined census for both the juvenile hall and the ranch was 62 youth. And just 2 years ago, this number hovered between 180 and 190 youth. In the entire history of Santa Clara County, 62 is the lowest number of incarcerated youth ever. Equally noteworthy, the report marks that July report marked the 5th consecutive day that there had been 0 girls in custody, making that the first time where both minimums, the number of girls and the total youth, were reached at the same time. And these low numbers are the result of intentional and sustained efforts by the juvenile court, juvenile probation, the public defenders, the district attorney's office, and numerous community partners. And I want to thank Ron for bringing this to my attention, to commend all of you on the critical work that makes this happen. And I look forward to working with departments further to continue to decarcerate the number of youth in our county. So thank you to all. And with that, we will adjourn to our next meeting, which is September 2nd, 2021 at 2 p.m., very likely right here on Zoom. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jess and Colin.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.